Welcome to my tutorial where I'm going to share with you a really fun technique that can be used in so many different ways, cutaway applique. This is also known as reverse applique and there are lots of variations of it. In this video I'll be showing you my favourite way, hand stitching and leaving the edges raw. For this project I've layered 4 different fabrics together, a natural linen, royal blue, white and then royal blue on the bottom again. I'm stitching with pearl cotton number 8 thread matched to the blue fabric. I first learnt this technique at secondary school using a sewing machine, which of course is quicker and sturdier, but lately I've been enjoying revisiting it by hand for a softer, more textured feel. So you can see I've drawn on a loose flowing line with a removable fabric pen that I'm now stitching along using a running stitch. This stitch is both decorative and functional as it will secure the 4 layers of fabric together. I've taken a pretty carefree approach to this design, but you can choose to stitch any type of line that you like. This technique works just as well for geometric designs as it does for softer flowing organic ones. I have knotted my thread at the back of the work. I'll continue sewing the running stitch all the way along my drawn line and then knot it again at the back of the work to keep the thread secure. I'm stitching with a sashiko needle. A sashiko needle is slightly stronger and longer than other needles, and it's good to gather the stitches up along the needle before pulling the thread through. The needle is sharp enough to pierce all 4 layers of fabric. You'll notice how I'm rocking the needle back and forth and using my left hand to kind of fold it around the edge of the needle. This helps to keep my stitches fairly even. Every so often I stop sewing and readjust the fabric so that it's not too tightly gathered. Once I reach the end, I have one final check of the tension before knotting at the back using a quilter's knot. Next I continue to build up the stitch lines in the same free flow manner. My aim is to cover as much surface area as possible and create interesting shapes where the lines intersect. Next is the really fun part, cutaway applique. I take a sharp pair of scissors and very carefully pierce them through the top layer of the fabric. Going slowly, I cut around the shape, being careful not to cut away any of my stitching and not to cut too close to the stitching. Removing that top layer reveals that beautiful royal blue underneath. You can go back in and neaten your edges if they're a little uneven, depending on how you like your finish. I continue in this way, cutting different areas with no real plan, just stopping and looking and seeing what feels right for me. In this second cutaway area, I've decided to also cut away the blue fabric to reveal the white underneath. I'm cutting slightly smaller than I did on the blue fabric to leave a really nice blue outline. You can see how revealing the white fabric underneath really changes the feel of the piece. As you're watching this, I really hope you're imagining the potential for your own projects. There are so many different ways you can use this process to make it your own. Imagine layering up many sheer fabrics, or perhaps use a more open weave like net or lace. You could experiment with both machine and hand stitching. Or you could make your cuts slightly further away from the stitching and needle turn the edges under. If this is a technique you're interested in, I do have a more detailed tutorial available on my website called Learning Reverse Applique. It's also worth saying at this point, if you enjoyed this video, then please do hit like and subscribe and write me a little comment to tell me how you're going to use it. Your engagement really does help support me as a creator. I keep cutting away in a fairly intuitive way, sometimes leaving the blue showing, sometimes cutting right through to the white, or right through again to the blue background. I have no set plan with this, I'm just feeling my way through, but I imagine you could create some really intricate and detailed work if you planned in advance what colours you were using and where to cut and reveal the layers below. This for me is a fabric doodle. I have no pressure with this piece, I'm just doing it to kind of break out of a creative rut and just see what's possible. Sometimes it inspires a larger piece of work, sometimes it becomes a smaller piece of work in itself, but the whole idea is to try and create without any set agenda and without any obligation for it to become something brilliant. I find this approach really freeing and is the most unpressured way for me to create. And as a slight distraction, I also find all of the negative shapes that I've created from cutting this way really fun to play with. Often taking a break in the middle of a project like this can help to loosen me up slightly, and it inspires other projects too. So I would advise every one of you to save all of your tiniest scraps and see what art you can make from it. Okay, back to the task at hand, and I think I'm happy with all the areas that I've cut out. And now I'm looking at my work and deciding I'd like to add some more solid lines. So I'm going to retrace some of my stitches, go back over with the same pearl cotton number 8 and whip the stitches. You'll see me use this stitch quite a lot in my work when I want to create a bolder line. Notice that I'm using the wrong side of the needle. I'm doing it this way so that the sharp point doesn't catch on any of the threads. And in a final act of carefree abandon, I've decided to slice this piece up into little squares and rotate them to see how that changes the composition. Remember before how I said it was a carefree and loose doodle? I'm sticking faithful to my word. Now obviously if you have spent hours and hours hand stitching something beautiful, I wouldn't recommend this approach, but for me it started off as an experiment and that's the way it's finishing. This may work better with machine stitch. It's probably worth noting that this isn't going to go on to become a usable piece. I'll probably end up mounting it on paper, and if I needed to I can go back and re-sew any of the hand stitching. I often view my textile pieces as collages, and this is one way that I would work with paper collage to inspire different compositions. I like to play around rotating each piece, finding out whether it works better for colours to match one another or whether hard edges look better next to soft edges. It's just a fun and playful way to see how this technique can be extended. So what do you think? Would you try this technique yourself? I do hope you've enjoyed this video and that you've learnt something exciting to use in your own practice.